So picture this, you're snoozing away below decks on a relaxing pirate cruise. Suddenly, a heavy impact rocks your mizzen mast, jolting you from your slumber. You barely have time to wipe the crust from your eyes and shake off the grog hangover before it becomes clear that something is very wrong.
First off, you're locked inside your cabin. Strange, but nothing a little percussive maintenance can't fix. As the cabin door crashes open, you notice the deck rats are a lot bigger than you remember.
What have they been feeding these things?
Piscetti. The crew is on edge, ready to swing a sword at the slightest shadow. Or you. Above decks, a full-fledged mutiny has begun already as a deadly storm swirls on the horizon. But there's no time for such petty human concerns. A massive kraken shatters the ship with 1,000 tentacles, dragging you down below the waves and into the dark, briny deep.
SKALD against the Black Priory might start out with a drowning and a big old Dagon, but it promises nothing short of an epic 80s role-playing nostalgia bomb, down to its keyboard-heavy control scheme and blocky Commodore 64 graphics. Can it live up to its promise and reach the same heights as the formidable RPGs of the Golden Age? Or will it be dragged into the murky depths of indie game obscurity?
If you want to join our ever-growing band of champions at the Heroes table, we'll talk about some ways you can support us at the end of the video. But for now, let's get ready to draw steel and face down the pixelated horrors of SKALD against the Black Priory.
My name is Boss Sauce.
And I'm Rolling Cuds, and together, we are the Two-Headed Hero.
When we say that SKALD evokes a certain era, it's important to set the stage properly. Role-playing used to be a dirty word. In the 70s and 80s, before it was cool, or at least socially acceptable, to have nerdy hobbies, fantasy fans would crowd around dice-covered tables to live out their adventuring dream. The pearl-clutching from the Satanic Panic crowd and the rampant media sensationalism surrounding tabletop role-playing did little to quell its popularity.
In fact, it increased it.
Yeah.
But what to do when your usual game group is busy for the evening? Well, it turns out that computers were perfect for rolling dice and storing stats behind the scenes and keeping you company in your lonely basement.
Who knew?
It wasn't long before programmers began to emulate their favorite tabletop experiences, and the huge commercial success of the first dungeon crawlers like Rogue, Ultima, and Wizardry sparked a thirst for adventure that still runs strong today. This golden age of computer role-playing games, or CRPGs, forms the well of inspiration that SKALD draws from.
It's true, RPG elements can be found in nearly every facet of gaming nowadays, but something was lost along the way. A certain X factor, an aura of mystery in which a game and all its mechanics, systems, and intricacies seemed just out of reach. Back in the days of big boxes and hefty manuals, many RPGs would taunt players to unlock their secrets, providing just a glimmer of a clue in the manual, or a tiny breadcrumb of NPC dialogue that could lead to game-changing revelations.
FromSoft games deliver on some of the above points, which likely speaks to their popularity. But SKALD is one of the first games in a long time to fully embrace the dawn of computer role-playing. It doesn't take up time or screen space to tell you what gear perks provide a 3% bonus against fire damage, or slap a bunch of big glowing objective markers all over its open world. This is the kind of game that plops you behind a big chunky interface so that you can push a little pixel guy around a 2D grid map using a bunch of keyboard shortcuts. This is peak role-playing.
Although SKALD might look like it's a relic from another era, the way it plays is surprisingly streamlined. The standard WASD keys move around your little mans, bumping into stuff interacts with it, and number keys select various dialogue options. This is a text-heavy game, so if you're not down with reading a bunch, sorry, I guess? You can also use the mouse for all this stuff. Plus, your mouse is a cool gauntlet that pokes stuff when you click. Extra points for that. Any game that gives you a cool mouse cursor that clicks on stuff when you click on stuff puts it above the 50th percentile in my mind.
SKALD is also a menu-heavy game, and the first pile of menus you'll be waddling through is character generation. Clicking on any of these displays a short description, so you don't feel like you're going in completely blind, just like eye patch blind. There's a pretty generous pile of classes, stats, and skills to dive into, and even a bunch of role-playing backgrounds to choose from, which provides some character flavor as well as minor bonuses.
This is plenty for any pen and paper fanatic to get behind, but the core of this system is simpler than you'd think. Everything is ruled by a pair of 6-sided dice rolls, whether you're picking a lock or firing an arrow into a bandit's face, and the skill levels of your party and your opponent come into play as roll modifiers after the fact. I mean, sure, it's just fun to see a pair of pixel dice rolling around for every skill check in the first place, but this also means that the role-playing system is easy to understand. When you're leveling up, you can clearly see how your choices have shaped your character using small, simple numbers rather than wading through an encyclopedia of info.
SKALD also gets extra bonus points for its deeply customizable difficulty, which can be tweaked at any time, even allowing players to fudge the dice results in their favor or take out gameplay elements like hunger and trash mobs altogether. We're not going to get into that tired old argument about difficulty options in games, but some people just have less time, patience, or skill than others. It's an accessibility thing, and I love to see it here.
You'll love to see it.
You love to see it.
After fooling around with the character generator long enough, I finally decided on a thief. I was browsing through the color schemes and portraits when I found this pixel portrait of Trent Reznor. Perfect. I figured here's Trent's long-lost ancestor, Brent Reznor. But unfortunately that name doesn't fit in the character limit, so I had to go with this.
Excuse me, you let me violate you?
And off I went into the hold of a creaky ship as it lurched over wine-dark waves.
After rolling out of bed and getting the hang of moving around and picking stuff up, SKALD throws a gang of rats your way. Rats are kind of the training wheels of the RPG world. Every adventurer has to smack a few of them around before they set out on a quest to murder a god or whatever. Even though these rats have grown to the size of dogs and developed some disturbingly human features like reading newspapers and enjoying coffee pour-overs, they go down easy. But it's a great start to showing off the game's intricate combat system. Battles are simple at first glance. Swinging a blade just requires bumping your character into an enemy, and ranged attacks only need a target and a button click. But look closer. See all those numbers and phrases flying around? There's a ton going on beneath the surface. Every attacker has different damage types, resistances, weaknesses, morale. Your momentum matters. Positioning matters. That walking corpse can take a lot of sword strikes, but maybe a fireball can give them an overdue cremation.
Are you going full Dungeon Master mode? I'm here for it.
I don't know.
To be clear, this is a dark fantasy setting. The monsters in SKALD go out of their way to twist and break the traditional fantasy conventions in some effective and disturbing ways. There won't be any orcs or elves or big gray-bearded wizardly types sending you on suicide missions over jewelry. Instead, your crew faces down the likes of murderous giant crabs, mutated rat kings, roving cannibal gangs, herds of feral hogs, 30 to 50 feral hogs, even the occasional otherworldly horror. And all of them want to take a big bite out of your cute little pixelated faces.
Take a peek at these bars below the cute little faces. There's actually 2 health bars. The green one represents vitality. Think of it kind of like a shield or something. It can take a lot of punishment, but it can be replenished with potions and spells. That purple bar is wounds. Your warriors have a lot fewer wounds, and when they run out, they go down. Running out of vitality and taking wounds also applies some pretty heavy penalties that can slow down and weaken them significantly, and the only way to recover from wounds is to set up camp and take a healthy snoozer.
But it's hard to take a snoozer on an empty tummy. Finding a campfire and a bed can be a lifeline to treat your party's wounds, and certain diseases can only be cured with a potion. If you want to stay well rested and battle ready, you're gonna have to keep your party stocked up with cheese sandwiches and fight juice. And this means a lot of foraging around. You can also send characters out to hunt for food or craft arrows while camping, but I found the easiest way was to simply poke around for food in the dark corners of each area. Plenty to love for those among us that feel compelled to pick up everything on the map and put it in their inventory.
Oh, the components of making a cheese sandwich are here in this dark, haunted basement corner. And then you get to put all that foraging to work in order to make those cheese sandwiches in the crafting system. There's not much going on with this. You find recipes and tick boxes of ingredients until, behold, I have crafted a cheese sandwich! And then, well, your little mercenary band is stocked up for another sleepover. got their little cheese toasties. Alchemy functions much the same way, with successful results providing a little bit more fight juice to get you through those tough times.
But why bother with fighting and potions and cheese sandwiches when you can sneak through the shadows? SKALD has a basic but fully functional stealth system toggled with a single key press, and it's actually pretty awesome how the light and shadow directly affects your sneakiness. Stealth helps with entering fights on your own terms, but it also comes in handy for sneaking past random encounters on the overland map.
This goes for diplomacy and athletics rolls too. Depending on your luck and the skills of your active character, you can outrun or bargain your way past trouble so that you don't have to draw steel. And this is often a wise move. Battles are brutal, resource-hungry, and often difficult, especially in the early game. Fights are always to the last.
No! To the pain.
There's a lot riding on each encounter, and nowhere to run if the tide suddenly turns against you. And it will. The old-school gamer mantra of save early and save often applies here, so keep that F5 button handy and get ready to save scum!
Your survival rests heavily in the hands of RNGesus, but so do the rewards. SKALD favors a somewhat Diablo-style loot system with items ranging in quality levels. The magic effects carried by the best loot are often randomized, and there's a ton of equipment slots to fill up. There's nothing earth-shattering when it comes to loot, but this tempered approach fits better with the horror setting. That moment when you upgrade from a tree branch to a masterwork dagger feels like a massive leap ahead, and no one will be waving around any flaming swords until near the end of the game. More often than not, I found myself sidelining loot in favor of advancing a quest line, which often treats the player to some of these fantastically grim pixel art cutscenes.
SKALD is a beautiful game, no doubt about it. When we last took a look at the demo in 2022, we mentioned how it struck a similar chord to early VGA graphics, especially in the mid-80s entries in the Ultima games that included day-night cycles and lines of sight. The menus, interface, and fonts all have that chonky DOS-era design, and there's even an optional CRT filter if you want to really slap on the old nostalgia goggles. Upon further reflection, SKALD looks more like a portmanteau of the limited palettes and visual styles from 80s PC RPGs and Commodore 64 games, but it still adds in some nice modern touches, especially the cool dithering shadow effect seen everywhere as you move around. The real beauty is in the lovingly rendered cutscenes and the expressive quarter-panel stills that you'll see throughout the campaign. These have a uniquely lovely art style that pulls inspiration from old D&D source books while maintaining a level of dark cartoonishness. The result lands somewhere between, Goldbox series and Lovecraft, and maybe the Goblins games. No one will know that reference.
5 French people will know this reference.
Sometimes you just put a reference in for 5 French people and me.
Sounds are a bit more sparse, mostly occurring in combat. It's a mix of bit-crushed noises and splashy gore effects in equal measure. Fitting and functional. The effect level feels a bit low in the mix, but the standout here is the soundtrack. Check out this opening theme. Doesn't that get you ready to swing a sword at some blocky fishmen? SKALD's audio landscape is filled with banger chiptunes that get you hyped for your 8-bit battles, as well as some nice atmospheric songs that evoke an aura of mystery. Or misery, as the case may be. I guess my one complaint would be I wish there was more of it. That single, prominent combat track wears a little bit thin by the end of the game, good as it might be.
The best part of the presentation might just be the writing. SKALD's plotline is penned like the notes of a cozy, intimate tabletop campaign. The game is quick to introduce its cast of unnerving characters and tarnished heroes. Even the most minor encounters feel memorable. It's a feeling of lingering unease which grows as it slow drips these dark encounters over its 20-hour runtime.
The full title of the game is SKALD, Against the Black Priory. SKALD is a term for a medieval Viking poet.
Down with Ulfric, the killer of kings. On the day of your death, we'll drink and we'll sing.
Spoiler alert, there's no SKALD in this game, anywhere. There is, however, a Black Priory, and you can bet that you're going to be fighting against it.
When we last left off our adventure, our creaky vessel was shattered into pieces by a monstrous horror from the deep. After slipping beneath the black expanse, we find ourselves in a flashback, where we finally get what all heroes desire.
Context. Turns out your reluctant hero is the son of the disgraced arms master from a powerful imperial house. Lord Cato Baron has summoned you back to your childhood home many long years after your father's dishonorable end. He requests your service as a mercenary for a singular purpose: to track down his missing daughter, Embla, and rescue her from whatever fate had befallen her on the mysterious Outer Isles.
As you wander the halls and walls of your childhood home, memories begin to flood back. Embla was your childhood friend and had developed certain non-imperial sanctioned proclivities towards magic. Although your father was charged with Embla's protection, something dark and terrible happened to her, resulting in trauma and maybe some kinda ancient dark god corruption.
Your father was exiled for his lapse in duty, and by extension, you were too. Driven into the hard life of a traveling merc, he gained a nasty drinking habit and died in obscurity. You learned the hard way what merc life entails, but started to carve out your own name from beneath his shadow. While you still might carry the bitterness from your years of exile and the mental scars from your father's death at the bottom of a rum bottle, Lord Cato Baron makes the promise to restore your family's honor and shower you in riches if you succeed. So you hire some sellswords and rent a boat, and off you go into the wild blue yonder.
Drifting from flashback, your unlucky mercenary awakens near the beach with a belly full of seawater and not enough crabs.
Oh, there's crabs.
What's that?
There's lots of crabs.
Gotta put them in your belly. Finding yourself ashore after the shipwreck, you regain your bearings and start to look for survivors and crabs. And you find one. And crabs. Cat the Scout proves handy with a blade and bow and joins your search for living crewmen up the coast. Nearby, you stumble into this unhinged character who freely admits to clubbing whatever survivors the sea drags up in order to help himself to their belongings. Well, probably not going to find any living survivors around here. So the search continues. Dredge up some equipment, locate the remaining crew, and continue your search for Embla on this dreary island. And crabs.
As you traverse this forsaken island, things quickly take a turn for the stranger. Idra is filled with danger. Vicious wolves, man-sized leeches, and horse-sized crabs run wild. A skeletal woman stands watch over a well filled with mind-altering mold creatures. A dead astronomer lies near his telescope, clutching a diary that recounts his chilling discovery. The stars no longer align. Cannibals prowl the shores, hungry for an easy meal from the unfortunate castaways that wind up stranded here. A lighthouse burns dimly in the distance, manned by a single paranoid madman. A strange spiral pattern is found near each of these ill portents. Something otherworldly has started to seep from far below the sea and into the essence of every living thing here. It's time to find Embla and secure a means of escape before it's too late. Honestly, this is a hell of a hook for an RPG. You've got a dark island, a personal stake, a shipwreck, and the growing unease of unraveling reality. But I found that SKALD really shined in its small moments of tension. When you first meet this old woman at her cozy cabin in the forest, you might think, okay, forest witch. But then your eyes drift over to the crib. What's in the crib?
Is it crabs? Are they crib crabs?
This is the kind of stuff I like, and all of these quests and clues are contained within a handy journal which does a good job of dropping hints without hand-holding the player or spoiling the mood.
SKALD does a great job at capturing a specific tone and era in gaming, but with that comes some of the same pains and inconveniences from that time. Combat works great on the whole, but targeting spells and skills doesn't feel entirely exact. My occasional misclicks would make my little guys attack the ground in true old-school style.
The game's also pretty stingy with arrows, at least in its first half. Crafting them at camp is pretty inefficient, and on the rare occasion you find a vendor selling ammo, you have to buy your arrows one at a time. An option to buy quantities of goods would be nice. In fact, some kind of slider window for picking up and dropping things from your bags would be incredibly helpful overall.
In defense of not getting very many arrows, it is a very generally good tabletop design strategy to keep your players hungry. But I haven't played in any tabletop campaigns that make you buy one arrow at a time. Crafting recipes can only be viewed at a workbench. It would be nice to see these in the journal somewhere so that you're not wasting gold on duplicates. And there's no map. Not of any kind. This is kind of a nuisance, sure, but none of the island locales are really that complex or confusing to navigate. It can just be hard to find landmarks that you've stumbled on once before. I think the idea here was to have the players draw their own maps. Just keep in mind if you have a map fetish or something and this is a real deal breaker for you.
Subscribe to my only maps. One more thing. Remember when my boy Bent Resner washed up on shore and bumped into Kat? She has a bow, and she's real sneaky. So guess what her class is? That's right, it's another thief. I would not really recommend going through SKALD with 2 thieves. This definitely hobbled my run at a couple points in the early game. A respec option would have come in handy here. But as it stands, my only options were to start all over or power through until some help could be hired on. Really though, if we're being honest, all these issues feel like tiny nitpicks on the overall design.
Because they are! We've gone off before about how many formative years of our childhoods were spent digging through dusty shelves in the back of media outlet stores, searching for cheap copies of forgotten software so we could pore over the manuals on the ride home and pop those discs into an ancient yellowing family computer. During my time with SKALD, I could almost swear that I was back in that uncomfortable wooden office chair, glued to my screen as I squeezed the secrets out of just one more dungeon.
This game is a Unity passion project made mostly by a single person, Anders Lauridsen, and to us, this makes the final product even more impressive. Unofficial mods are starting to show up in the game's Discord server, and Lauridsen has hinted time and again that he would like to release a full game editor so that people can dungeon master their own SKALD campaigns. Here's hoping this leads to a rise of a healthy modding community down the road.
On its own, a single journey through SKALD will clock you around 20 hours, but the number of secrets and alternative outcomes make it easily worth a replay or two. It pulls at the threads of long-forgotten memories for fans of early RPGs, while remaining entirely accessible for newcomers. And all this comes at a mere $15 price tag. If you like what you've seen so far, there's no reason to further delay. Go ahead and treat yourself.
Anyway, we'd like to thank you for coming along with us on this voyage over choppy seas. If you like what we're doing here, maybe subscribe. If you want to help our little channel, take a second to like and share the video. And if you want to know when our next video gurgles up from the deep, make sure to turn on that notification bell and maybe leave a comment. You could say something like, "Why is this game called SKALD?" And we'll answer something like, "Why indeed?" We'll have ourselves a little back and forth down there.
Or better yet, duck your weary head out of the rain and warm yourself by the cozy fireplace of the Heroes Tavern over on Patreon. Just 2 measly doubloons per month gets you early access to all of our videos, and higher tiers gain access to additional exclusive perks and bonuses.
Our deepest gratitudes go out to all the proud champions that continue to support us on Patreon and Ko-Fi. Highest praises to our champion at the Seat of Honor level, Wolfgang Bristol.
Let's raise a flagon in cheers to all those that take a seat at the heroes table, including Jaduzable,
KK,
Spinal Pine,
Vulpes, and the rest. The vast ocean of YouTube can be an unforgiving place, and your comments and donations mean a lot to our little corner of the internet. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next
Two-Headed Hero.